Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 1, Episode 6 of Gannibal. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're picking up in the aftermath of last episode, where Kaneko is talking to Daigo about the day her baby was taken from her, and that fact is that Gin had this smile on her face. She looks so elated, because it's like, another, I guess, healthy meal to be added to the list, I guess. And once again, just being gaslit by her own father, being like, no, the baby was stillborn. And obviously, Yuki calls him, being like, yo, the mayor, as well as his crew, is here. And like, Jin steps up and he starts stuff with Daigo, grab him by the hair. He's like, yo, answer me. And I love Daigo's like, let go before I break your fingers. And then like kind of hurts his fingers a little bit, and then does like and then tosses him. And it's like, oh wow, even Jin's like, I actually underestimate you. You're actually tougher than I thought. Because like Daigo's like, yo, I'm tired of this. You guys don't want to act like you can run things, you can punk me out. It's like, no, let me tell you what it is. I'm investigating the Gato family because none of you are willing to tell me anything, so I'm handling things on my own. The fact is, he's so brazen to actually tell them exactly what he's doing, because for him, it's like, I'm doing exactly this, and none of you are going to stop me or get in my way. But obviously for Yuki, there's this complicated element to it, and it kind of comes to a head later in the episode, but it is that confrontation of he's still saying that this is all for Mashiro, because he's like, oh, she's happy here, which I think on some level it is the case. Like, he doesn't want to move her away from this, but at the same time, I brought it up before, he started this, and it's like, I'm going to be the one to solve this, because Daigo's got that, like, brazen side of himself that it's like, it's a pride thing of like, I started this, I'm going to be the one to solve this. Because even Yuki was like, you've never been more alive than you were in this moment. I've never seen you like this. Like, because I think after everything that went down in the past, he was just, we saw that he kind of got a thrill from the job regardless, because like there is a different side of Daigo. We've seen like how he can get like heated and gets consumed and almost like delightful when it comes to violence. That it's a side of himself that I don't think Yuki's always gotten to see, but I think this is one of the instances where she's seen it herself. But it's like, I've never seen you so alive, because he's always kind of calmed down before he's come home. So she's never gotten to see that side of him before. And it's like, right, this was all about you. And I think for the first time, Daigo's kind of realizing, right, I'm just using Mashiro as an excuse. I want to solve this. I want to be the one who solves this, because it's a way to kind of prove himself over again. Like, obviously, once again, he was like demoted here. This was kind of his punishment to kind of be sent out here. So I think it's just a pride thing of feeling like proving yourself, but also, there's a bigger thing going on here. You want to solve it. All these people are getting in your way, but it's exciting. You get to do like some police work, and you're feeling like, I'm going to be the one to unravel all of this. I'm going to be the one that solves it. So that hubris and pride gets in his way, because what kind of also instigated a lot of this was Mashiro went missing, and what also sucks is, like, he ended up forgetting it's Mashiro's birthday. Because she was like, oh, you're going to come home early? He's like, yeah, sure. It's like, she's probably asking you to do that for a particular reason. And he had completely forgotten it was Mashiro's birthday. But, he actually went hunting with Keisuke, and, I think I pronounced it Kisuke last episode. It's Kisuke. I think there is a difference. It's, either way, I'm going on a tangent. But Keisuke was kind of being told by the others, like, well, because Jin was like, yeah, I underestimated him. I think you guys need to kill that detective. And Keisuke was like bringing him out to a hunting trip. And I like, once again, that brazenness in Daigo, where it's like, yo, like, I'm investigating your family. Like, are you going to, like, if you're going to basically go for me, like, you might as well take your shot. And it's like, right, I heard about what you did to protect your family. You killed that guy in order to save your daughter. Well, I'm the same way. I will do whatever it takes. I will kill anyone to protect the Goto family. And you see the gun like shift away from Daigo and shoot someone. I figured he wasn't going to shoot Daigo, But Daigo's like, oh, you missed. He's like, no, I didn't. Now, I don't know how Daigo meant that as like oh, you missed. You didn't actually hit me. Or it's like, oh, the deer you were claiming you're going for, you missed. But it's like, no, the young ones are what, their meat tastes better. Maybe I'll even let you you'll get a taste of it to kind of understand that. And it's like, once again, the brazenness on their side as well, where it's just kind of like flaunting it. Like, yeah, we eat, we eat children essentially. So. But yeah, when they were looking for Mashiro, it turns out she was actually with her friend hanging out. And Daigo was kind of assuming like, nah, that was all planned. They did that just to let us know they could get to Mashiro at any point in time. And it's like, no, because it is weird that her friend would invite her out in the middle of the night like that. Like, why would you do that? But also without telling your mom or anyone like what you were doing. Like that's, well, it seemed like the kids... What was his name? Like Tamaki? Like his mom knew, but not Yuki. I'm like, that's weird. Like if you knew what was, or maybe she was just kind of explaining like, oh, my son did this. She was with him. I'm sorry. I had no idea he was doing that. Like maybe all the kids have that freedom, or maybe her son in particular does. And he just like, oh, because he was there just showing it off to Mashiro. Because everyone was getting involved because Yuki went to the mayor and Mr. Sabu like ended up, I keep calling him the mayor. I called him the mayor last episode. I was like, I confusing it with that other character. The other character is the mayor. It's because the head Keisuke and Yosuke's dad is the mayor. I think Mr. Sabu's just the leader of the. Like I think he's just one of the leaders of the village. I don't think he's the mayor. I know those are two separate people, but I think I conflate, once again, because it's been so long, I think I conflated them after. I think maybe even when I was recording those previous reviews, I think I was treating Mr. Sabu like he was a mayor. It's like, no, those are two different characters. Either way. But Mr. Sabu, like, gathered up the villagers and, like, Daigo just going full hardcore, like, oh, you guys had something to do with it. If I found out any of you had anything to do with it, I will kill you. It's like, for Yuki, it's like, they're actually here to help us. What the hell are you saying, Daigo? Because that would have been bad, because it's like, oh, the people who've gathered to help you, even though you can't really trust them, it's like, they would have at least helped you find your daughters. It's still just kind of, ugh. But luckily, everything turned out okay because Kaneko's the one who found her. Because she's like, oh yeah, I used to come here all the time. And once again, she looks at Mashiro and it's just a reminder of the child she no longer has. And I think for her, it's like, she probably thought one day she would bring her child to that spot that she used to go to. Because I think there's this thing of like, I think there's this childlike wonderment with Kaneko because like she's been like she kind of digressed more. I was about to, it's not like a full digression of like, oh, she's become like a child herself, but it's just, I figure like on some level that's true because it's her way to compensate and fill the void of having lost her child and once again being gaslit by her family, her father in particular. Hey, that baby didn't survive. You're crazy. What are you talking about, Kaneko? So, but yeah, she found her and left. And we do see later on during the celebrations while they're doing the practice runs and the last practical run, everyone's there. And Home Dude, who's the head priest, is like, yeah, back in the day, they used to do human sacrifices. But now we've kind of moved away from it. And now we use these straw in the shape of people to represent that. And he had this really interesting conversation with Daigo where he talked about how similar the villagers and the Gatos were. That it's like our ancestors' bloods and traditions run through us. That is a similarity between both of us. And that it ended at the end of the day, you could look at it as a little bit of a curse. And I was like, that's interesting because you're bound by the blood and traditions that have kind of preceded you. That it is this curse that kind of gets passed on to you from generation to generation to fulfill those obligations that are a part of you because it is a part of your bloodline and it's part of these traditions that you keep alive. So it's not even, it is more curse than blessing, because they celebrate it as like a beautiful thing, but him kind of giving the perspective of it being a curse, which I thought was interesting. Once again, I'm like, you are a participant in this, but maybe it is a situation of you're alone for the ride, but you don't fully believe in it and you have the outside perspective while still also being on the inside of it. I don't quite know where he stands in, if that's just something, is that a lane he's on? Is that something his father, who kind of ran things before him, like, is that just their belief of like, yeah, we're a part of this, but we don't fight it because this is, we're maybe their family I mean, maybe he was also talking in his case where it's like maybe, the torch has been passed from generation to generation in his family about being the priest in all of this. So it's like, maybe just like the Gato family, maybe just like all the other villagers, his family's just as cursed as everyone else's because of blood, because of tradition. So there's so many ways that could be, viewed in that point. And like I said, it's just his viewpoint seems so interesting. Like I said, he's trying to get Daigo to leave the village. So it does seem like he doesn't agree with everything, but he kind of goes along with it, so he's still kind of complicit. But he also kind of denies, like, oh, there's no, what, oh, you think they fake children's death and then eat them? Like, and Daigo was like, no, yeah, like, why would Gen do something like that? So that's why I'm like, I don't fully know where he stands. He seems so flip-floppy to me. But the whole thing got Daigo thinking, because you could look at Yuki staring at Kaneko, because I guess a lot of what Daigo said was getting to her, but also what she said to Daigo was getting to him, because he started thinking about everything. And it's just what Kaneko went through, just everything in this village, it started wearing on him, especially because Mr. Sabu said this very specific phrase. He's like, oh, you acting crazy like this? You know who you remind me of? Mr. Kano. And that's why I was like, there's the setup already. All they have to do is make him seem like he's insane. All they had to do was make it seem like, oh yeah, Mr. Kano like left after having a mental breakdown. And it's like Daigo's behavior up till now puts him in the exact same situation. So he ultimately apologizes to Yuki and is like, you know what? I'm going to get us out of here. We can go. Actually, before I even get to that, I want to circle back because he ends up meeting up, was it Nakamura? Ends up talking to him again. And turns out like Mr. Kano brought Gen to him like some time ago. And it turns out she was laughing because it's called Kuru. It's the laughing disease. It is a byproduct. And he said like, it would happen in people in Papua New Guinea back in the day because of traditions of like eating the dead. I don't know if that's still because I think I vaguely remember that kind of getting brought up in earlier episodes. I don't know if that's a tradition that still exists there or not, but eating their dead is part of like this ritualistic thing. And you get kuru from it, the laughing sickness. So you're laughing uncontrollably and like crazily. And so, because obviously it would, like, because it's the same thing as like the dangers of eating like raw meat, like what you could, because it doesn't like, God, I'm not well versed enough in diseases and stuff, but I'm like, isn't that similar kind of to what like mad cow disease kind of is? Isn't that kind of in that same vein or something like that? I mean, I know that's because like, God, I don't. It's something that I'm not going to go. I'm going to be spitting like Jesus, speaking out of my ass. So I'm not going to go down that route. But I was like wondering if there was some similarities of what like mad cow disease could do to a human versus like what this kuru could. So. But it's like, yeah, Gen isn't the only one on record. Because now that he's wondering, it's that why they went after Mr. Kano, because he made it like, he made something official. Probably in all that family's history, or for a majority of that family's history, they've managed to not have any records of that stuff, but now having it on record, like, oh, she has this very specific disease that comes about when you eat human flesh. So that might have something to do with Mr. Kano because he got an official record of it. But it turns out back in, what was it, 1951 or sometime after, there was another person, a 6-year-old. Because when he first brought up the 6-year-old, I was like, is that supposed to be the dude who got his face eaten off? Like, did he have like some flesh? Did he eat some flesh beforehand or something? Like, what was that? And then they bring up like, oh, back in 51 or whatever. He's like, yeah, whoever this person is, if they were still alive, they'd be like 75. And in that moment, it's like, Daigo knows exactly who it is. It's that man. And even the doctor was like, yo, when it's all said and done, this might be a new variant of Kuru's, which I'm wondering is that why he is the way he is, because of Kuru. Like it morphed him and had like a very supernatural effect on him. Maybe not. I don't know. Cause pretty spry and strong, and for a 75-year-old man. So that's why I'm like, there's definitely a little supernatural kick to that, I believe. But anyway, getting back to the point I was bringing up before, Daigo was leaving with Yuki and Mashiro, and I was like, "Are you actually going to leave? Because for one, you're pride, but also like you don't want to leave this unfinished because if you don't stop this, no one will. It'll just keep on going." But he's being followed out of the village, and I did think the timing was interesting that the car would come around the corner, especially when that car pulled off after the fact. I was like, oh, did Daigo set that up? And it turns out, yeah, he did. Because he took off the tracker because he knew they were going to follow him out of the village, you know. And but yeah, they lost the guy that was chasing him, and I'm going to butcher his name, but it's like Iwa. Not too happy about it because he's the one that's like, oh, if Keisuke didn't kill him, it's a good thing. It's like, it's up to us. He's the leader of the family now. We should be the ones who handle and get our hands dirty with this stuff. But that didn't work out. So, but luckily, Mashiro and Yuki were left in, God, what was his, it's Yama something, left in his hands. Which once again, I'm paranoid. I'm like, can you really trust him? I know, but it's still kind of like I don't fully trust him. I'm like, it feels like he could easily turn them over while you're preoccupied. Because for him, it's like I got to go back to the village because if those kids are still alive, there's a chance that Kaneko's child is still alive, and that child deserves to be loved by their mother. So. Because it might have been beforehand, might have been around the same time, but we do cut back to like the Keisuke and Yosuke of it all. Where Keisuke, like, I guess Yosuke was aware of some of the stuff. Maybe he's just, now that Keisuke's like the leader, he can't handle this stuff. It gets delegated to his brother. Just like these tasks used to be his, now they're getting passed on to Yosuke. So it's like, right, we see the children. It's like, cool. This one's from two years, from now, this one's for next year, and this one right here, which is most likely Kaneko's son, is going to be this year's meal. And so I was like, okay, interesting. So they don't just eat you as an infant; they let a little bones grow on you. I guess a little meat on your bones, and end up making it so that. So at least every kid, which doesn't make it any better. I don't know if it makes it worse, but it's just, there's no like silver lining to it. They get raised in cages and kept. And then, they're at least, I guess, until they're at least 3 years old, and then they're eaten. Because Kaneko said like her baby was taken from her like 3 years ago, and it was a baby that was just born, so. I wonder why that specific age. But like I said, just knowing they already got not only next year's meal lined up, but even the year after that lined up. So, but Yosuke's responsibility is to wash up the child and get them prepared. What I thought was interesting too is they wear bags over their head. I thought that was just, so they can't identify you. It's also, it's to be a physical representation of like putting a barrier between you. I think it's supposed to make it a little easier when they are not looking you directly in the eyes. I think it kind of obscures your vision enough that you're supposed to also not see them as human, and they're not seeing you as human because you don't want to form any connection with them. As we get that scene at the end with Keisuke thinking about Gen, who's basically like, yeah, this family, we are a unit. And the fact of the matter is, everyone outside of this family is just slabs of meat. But you, she's like, you're my family. I don't look at you like that. Except for the traitor, I look at less than a slab of meat. That most likely being dude who's got his face. Cause I said like maybe 18 or 19 years ago, cause I thought that's what they said. But Gin was like, well, could we also, that might have been like a couple years. That could have been like 2 or 3 years ago. So, cause she said like, oh, the person who betrayed us 16 years ago. Because, like I said, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation because I don't. It's like Iwao, and I don't know if that's like. I don't know if you pronounce that like Iwa, but he had talked to Keisuke about like Yosuke. It's like, how do you know for sure he's ready for this? Because this family can't deal with another traitor. If we might need to nip that in the bud ahead of time. But Keisuke's like, when it's all said and done. Like, let's just get him through this year, and then he'll be able to kind of continue. There'll be no issue, but it's like, it will be. Because we see later on, Yosuke's like, and he says those magic words of, I see you as a human being and kind of nothing else. They're humanizing it. He even took off the cloth and everything. So you're like, okay, so is Yosuke the insider? Is he the whistleblower? Like, has he just been waiting for his moment to get closer and closer? But then you're like, Yosuke never knew where the kids were. The only person who did. Now that solidifies it even more for me that it's got to be Keisuke, who's the quote unquote traitor, because he was the one handling those responsibilities beforehand. Before now, those are being passed on to Yosuke, so like he was handling that. He's also responsible, at least to some extent, to feeding that man. Like what I thought was interesting is like Iwa was looking at the like where the food gets left and stuff, and I'm like, is he supposed to just be regularly feeding him human meat or something? Because it was almost looking like he was looking at it being like, I know this isn't like human meat, it's like other meat. Well, we know he's hunted deers and stuff, or just, I don't know, like that seemed weird. It seemed like he was kind of being a little suspicious of Keisuke, or maybe it's just kind of like Keisuke's being too soft on like Yosuke, and he's just not willing to see the danger of a potential traitor there. What's also interesting too is Keisuke got a call from Sumire who says like she's pregnant with his child. So I don't know if that changes things or in any shape or form, because maybe he's also like, right, I can't let the Gato family find out about that, because if they do, they're going to drag my child here. He did say something, maybe it was a mistranslation or maybe I just read that wrong, but it's like, because Hondu, who I keep referring to as Iwa, like I said, that's probably not the pronunciation, but it was like, he was like, Yosuke was close to Kano, and I was like, as in like, Sumire or her dad? Which is like, I was like, are people under the impression that Yosuke was close to her, or not realizing that Keisuke was the one that was close to her? Or was that in reference to Mr. Kano, that maybe Yosuke was close to him? I don't know. Because I was about to say, like, the Gato family doesn't really eat each other. Well, they ate Gin, but that's like after she had died. Like, the Gato family doesn't eat each other because that would be sacrilegious. Because it's like, no, you're family. We wouldn't do that. So I guess Keisuke was probably trying to protect his baby of like, he doesn't really say much to Sumire after she brings that up, because to be fair, home dude walked into the room, but he probably doesn't want the God, because he probably could have announced it then and there, but it's like, I don't want my family to know. I want that child to be as far away from the Gato family as possible, so it doesn't have to, because eventually that child will be grown up in the Gato family system and eventually be where I am, having to handle stuff like feeding that man. So it might not just be Yosuke. I mean, not unless we have a twist to it where it turns out Yosuke has that scene where he's like, oh, I see you as a human being, but he's more willing to go through with it. But even Keisuke, who's putting up this front, is the one that's not willing to go through it. Not unless it's kind of a role reversal there where it's like, either we're going to find out Yosuke is not all about this, like that scene is kind of portraying it as, or we're going to find out, no, that was all a front. Like either that was his way of like, oh, I see you as a human being, but I'm still going to serve you up because it's my duty. Like it felt like he was humanizing, but it feels like that could be like a red herring to be like, oh, make you think Yosuke is someone that can be trusted, but he can't be, that he's going to go through his responsibilities and stuff because of this, this blood, this tradition, this curse that is their family. But we had Daigo show up, and home dude, like I said, I keep calling him like Iwa, ends up getting in his way. I love that he tries to toss the dude, but he can't even budge him, and the guy like knocks him down the cliff and starts beating the crap on him. He's like, why are you here? He's like, yeah, someone told me that the children are here, and he starts beating on Daigo, and Daigo can't do anything to him, smacks him in the face with a branch, and he starts bleeding. But I was like, what's this dude deal? Like, is it like, oh, he's so hopped up on like human flesh that he's kind of like that man, where it's like there might be like some kind of little supernatural push to it, like maybe it has like maybe the variant of the Kuru disease, like maybe it ends up maybe it does something to the body and kind of enhances you if you I mean, because some versions of cannibalism have been shown as kind of like, in that spiritual sense of like you absorb the energy of those you've eaten. So maybe that's kind of what's going on in his case. But it's like Daigo couldn't do anything against him, and Guy is beating the brakes off him. But Daigo getting in the final lap, thinking like, yeah, but whoever it was that betrayed you, it's most like someone real close to you, and he starts beating on Daigo. Now, whether he ends up killing Daigo, probably not, because Daigo. I would assume like Daigo's keeping himself alive by not telling him like who it actually is, because he would most like he knows who it is. He heard the voice. Because he was like, he got a call, wasn't even a text. Or at least what he said was like, he got called. So either he's fronting like that to keep himself alive long enough to see this through. I don't think Home Dude killed him there at the end, but that was most likely like, oh, I'm beating the shit out of you, but I'm also going to knock you out because we need you alive, because we need to find out what you know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. We'll ultimately have to wait to see where that ends up taking us in the long run. Obviously the next episode is the finale, like I brought up before. I don't know if that's like finale or season finale, because I'd also have to look into this, because I looked it up once again like months ago, but I don't remember where this stands, because I'm sure the manga's done, but I don't know like how much. I don't know if this is like telling all of the manga story or not. So, but like I said, I'll look all that up after I finish the episode, and before I do the next recording. So, but yeah. I'm excited to see where the finale or season finale takes us going forward with all of this. I'm kind of worried that Daigo might not make it out of this, especially when it's like, oh, I made a promise to my family. Like I said, either he died right there at the end of that episode, or he's going to die in the finale, or I don't know. I just don't think everything's going to work out. I hope it does, but then because I'm also worried about Yuki and Mashiro, because I feel like that could always turn back around and they show up in the village or something. I don't know. Well, like I said, we'll have to see where all this takes us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.